Transformation, a fundamental change in form, nature, or character. Sometimes it happens in a flash. Other times it unfolds step by step, through fear, through hope, through choice. It began with questions, unfamiliar symbols, growing fears, and tragedies that no one could have explained. The world didn't fall apart, it held its breath. And in that silence, people decided to move. Some chose to investigate, to chase patterns, protect lives. They didn't have powers, just conviction. Detective, scientists, teachers, families, each doing what they could, even if it didn't feel like enough. And in the middle stood one person, someone who didn't just fight the monsters, but he made a promise to smile. No matter how dark the path became, he changed physically, emotionally, but so did everybody around him. The police grew more than just protocols. Researchers became believers in possibilities. Even the public, gripped by fear, began to find trust in one another. What began as a survival became something more, a connection, understanding, and quiet resilience. The kind that spreads, not with force, but with kindness, strong enough to stand in the face of cruelty. This isn't just a story about stopping destruction, it's a story about choosing to build something better together. Because transformation, in the end of the day, it's a story about choosing to build something better together. Because true transformation isn't about power. Because this is the story of why do I love Kamen Rider Kuuga. After Blackout X ended in 1989, Kamen Rider vanished from television for over a decade. Outside of 3 movies that each and every one got planned to have a sequel, but later on get cancelled, in the 90s, fans clung to every hint of a revival. Magazine and early internet forums carried the rumors of a new title like Kamen Rider 15, Gaia, before Ultraman Gaia was a thing, and even some imagined a vampire-themed rider. Behind the scenes, Kamen Rider's creator Shotaro Ishinomori was sketching a reboot idea for the franchise before his sad passing in 1998, convincing many that the 30th anniversary would bring the franchise back. Later, in 1999, Toei made it official. That November, the title Kamen Rider Kuuga was revealed, along the new show's star, Joe Nadiri. When episode 1, Revival, aired on January 30th, 2000, it surprised the audience with its darker tone, police drama elements, and its cinematic style. Japanese fans praised the realism, while international fans, tape trading online, were simply thrilled that Kamen Rider had returned. Kamen Rider Kuuga follows the man with 2,000 skills, Godai Yusuke, where he gets chosen to transform into Kuuga and fight and stop the Grongi's killing game. But alone he would have never succeeded without his support system from friends, mentor, police, and just regular civilians. Because transformation didn't just belong to the hero, it rippled through everyone around him, shaping friends, allies, even strangers, into something stronger. Among the first touched by that change was Sakurato, a longtime friend of Godai, and you see by the way they interact, and the way she really cares for him, and also her being against the idea of Godai being Kuuga, believing it's too dangerous. But throughout her conversation with Ichijo, And seeing how many people Godai gets to help and touch, she loosens up. And she actually wants to help them to defeat the Grongi. And that is using her knowledge and translating the Grongi text that is on the Oracle, which is primarily just a hint in what the hell each and every form of Kuuga has and its true purpose. And I think she was a genuinely good character. At least with her connection to Godai, they had great interactions. You can see how much they care for each other as friends. How the one thing on the investigation side, I wish he would have actually volunteered to be a part of the Grongi attack squad at the police station, mainly because she kind of feels like she's in her own bubble. You can say that pretty much the good guys are kind of separated into three tribes: the science and investigation, the police, and the regular civilians, where Godai kind of touches all of them. She feels like she's way more in a bubble where the rest of the cast enters in and leaves, and it feels kind of like she's not that big of a part of the larger story. She's a part of it, but not as big as other characters. Like, I think that how much I can say that, yeah, I wish she was a part of the larger story, I still really loved her character and what she kind of brought onto the table. Like, to be honest, you can say that she was kind of the beginning of this yearly tradition that now is way more imprinted into the franchise of the female heroine that, yeah, sometimes will transform, sometimes they won't. Because in the end, Sakurako's whole arc is about the transformation of knowledge. She begins by resisting change, afraid of what Godai's new role means, wishing he would step away from danger. But little by little, she transforms too, from a friend on the sideline to a guide whose translations and insights shape the fights itself. Her growth reminds us that transformation isn't always loud or physical. It can be quite steady to decode a single word at a time. By the end, she shows that true knowledge doesn't stay on the page, it changes us. And through us, it changes the world too. But knowledge isn't enough. It can guide, but also it could warn. But to act on it, you need someone willing to trust. And that's where Ichijo begins. As the main character that serves as the audience guide not only to the police station, but to the world as a whole, was absolutely amazing. With him pretty much playing the second protagonist of the show alongside Godai, with them two interacting pretty much the most with each other, and having him not trust Godai at first, not because he doesn't believe that Godai is a good guy and he has some sort of malicious intent, mainly because he doesn't understand him. And he doesn't understand how much Godai is pretty much committed to making people smile. But having them open up and start really talking, Ichijo started to trust him. So much he went to bat for him, including him in police matter involving the Grongis, and even having the R&D department give him a new bike after his original broke, which was amazing. And we really get to see how much those two characters are so much alike, wanting to help everyone no matter what. And we really get to see Ichijo fully open up from this semi-stern detective to someone beaten by Godai's hope and optimism bug. He was very much the prototype of the traditional secondary, someone that, at least personality-wise, opposes the main protagonist of the show, but somehow they find a common bond, most of the time in saving people, and they get closer together when they pretty much become a unit. And I did like they didn't make him a secondary. And it was a thing that just started with Agito. How much the Kuuga 2015 manga didn't make him G3, which I don't like. Ichijo's whole arc was about the transformation of trust. At first, not understanding Godai's unshakable optimism, or why he would choose to shoulder so much danger with a smile. But step by step, he transforms too, learning to see beyond procedure, beyond fear, into the heart of a man who simply refuses to give up on others. His belief in Godai grows so strong, he bends the system itself to support the Godai, proving that trust isn't just a belief, it's action. By the end, Ichijo shows the transformation doesn't mean changing who you are. Sometimes it means letting somebody else's light reshape the way you see the world until you find the courage to stand beside them in it. And even outside of the main two other leads of the show, I truly believe that the rest of the cast make this world feel so alive and so lived in, which is fucking incredible. Like Minoru, Godai's sister, which as the only blood relative of Godai that we actually got to see, we really get to understand that optimism in dark times really do run in the family. I genuinely love that they used her as a daycare worker to have Godai interact with the kids, and she and him trying to lift them up in those trying times, which worked really fucking well. And having those kids look up to Godai not only as a person, but also as Kuuga, and having them be scared for him at around the finale was amazing. Like, the kids in Kamen Rider, in my opinion, are the second brightest light that we should look at. And they're very much the kind of like symbol of the future's hope. And I just love the way that both Minoru and the kids were used in the season. Like, this was fucking amazing. And with her and Shinjo, we see how much the people behind the scenes working on the show really have this reverence to teachers, with Shinjo being Godai's teacher. And we really see how much he impacted Godai's outlook of life. He was the reason why Kuuga and Godai has his signature pose of the thumbs up, which you can say it's literally the one thing that symbolizes Kuuga in just a silhouette. Every other rider's signature pose is charging up or ready for a battle. Kuuga's is about after the fight finishes. It's hope, and how much he's not a fully reoccurring character showing up very sporadically. He doesn't need to show up as much because Godai is the example of how you see somebody as a mentor figure and how much they can reshape your outlook, which is fucking incredible. While also having tragic characters like Mika with her dad dying at the day of the excavation site by the hands of the unidentified life form Zero, and having her get a character arc for a child character to be pessimistic and seeing both Kuuga and the Grongis as the bad guys, and having her see Godai transform and see that Japan has an actual protector outside of the police, and having that be the moment that she gets to actually say, okay, fine, I'm genuinely okay with what's going on. I'm going to move on from my dad's death. Like, she's not quote unquote okay, but she's at least actually seeing Godai as someone that you can look up to and someone that would take care of the Grongi, which was amazing. While I also love how much this show used the different factions that not only the Grongi has, and kind of implementing it onto the humans, with the regular civilians as one structure, the investigators slash researchers slash science as another, while the police being the third tribe, and taking two characters from two completely different tribes and kind of have those two help each other out, with Jen and Hiraki, with Hiraki being the head of the R&D department at the police. She was pretty much involved with all of the weapons that the police used to fight the Grongi. Hey, even she helped to design Kuuga's bike. But with pretty much being the head of R&D means that her time with her family is few and far between, specifically when she is a single mother that raises a child while also her mom lives with them. That means she needs to work overtime a lot, which means that most of the time she makes promises to her son and then she doesn't make up for them, which is genuinely interesting. And you can really see how much she really wants to actually be there for her son. She wants to be this mother figure, but she can't do it. And having it work so well with Jean being one of the only non-Japanese characters in the show, and having him pretty much for the first time seeing her pretty much fall in love with her, and having those two characters kind of like develop one another, with John pretty much kind of trying to push her out of her pretty much I'm a bad mother phase, saying that yeah, like, you have a job, it's your responsibility, and having her kind of like take away from John's semi-shyness. And those two worked really well. While also like John being an investigator was fun, while also him being the person that discovered Gorgam is neat. While I love that we actually got to see other characters that can be fascinated by the Grongis and Kuuga in different ways. Like Tsubaki, the doctor that most of the time takes care of Godai. I love how much he does care about Godai, not only as a doctor but also as a person. But he is fascinated in the way that the Oracle kind of works, because the Oracle slowly kind of turns Godai into a Grongi. And he's kind of like semi on the same side of Sakurako, not wanting Godai to transform as much. He sees it as something dangerous. He sees it as something that could risk Godai's humanity, even his own life. But having him interact more with Godai and Ichijo, you see the hope that he has in Godai. He sees that at some point he stops kind of like pushing him not to do it. He understands that maybe someone's resolve cannot be changed that much if it's so pure. And this forms a really interesting relationship between him and Chono, a person when the Grongi first arrived, he saw them as these beings of power and he genuinely idolized them at first. But after getting to actually interact with Godai, he starts to understand that, oh, like, I'm wrong. And both Godai and Tsubaki actually get through to Chono and they make him start to love himself again and seeing himself as a human that is flawed, but it's okay, which is fucking great. While Nana and Kazari were genuinely a fun duo. Mainly, like, Nana was slightly the most developed character out of the two, with her being an actress looking for her quote-unquote big break, so Kazari, her uncle, let her work in his coffee shop. And I love how much she looks up to Godai and how much he actually does help her to seek confidence in herself and seek that confident smile that she can have, which is genuinely amazing. While also, like, I love how much Kazari is this comic relief character that in the end knows way more about Godai than pretty much anyone else, because he gets him. He's also an optimistic son of a bitch. He's not outly presenting that, next to Godai, which is absolutely amazing. Among those touched by Godai's light, Minoru stands as the quiet heart, showing Godai's optimism is not alone but runs in the family. Through her care for the children, she ties Kuga's battle to the next generation's future. Shinjo, Yusuke's teacher, reminds us how deeply the influence of one person can carry. His lessons, thumbs up, is the foundation of Kuga's own spirit. Mika, born out of tragedy and grief, found herself lost in anger and distress. Yet, through Yusuke, she discovers hope, learning that even in despair, faith can return. In John and Ikari, we see two lives reshaped by their bonds. With Ikari's devotion to her work nearly steals her family away, while John's shyness hides his brilliance. Together with Yusuke's example, they transform into a fuller, braver selves. Tsubaki fears that Yusuke would lose himself into darkness, become tempered by trust, while also helping Chono, once fascinated by the Grongi, learns instead to find self-worth. Nana Kazari embodies the lighter side of Kuga's world. Nana discovering her confidence in chasing her dream, while Kazari through often comedic relief, showing an understanding of Yusuke deeper than most around him. But for every light that transformation sparked, there was a shadow, waiting. The Grongi embodied that shadow, twisted evolution without any compassion, change without hope. They reminded us that transformation can just as easily consume as uplift. In my opinion, the Grongi is one of the best faction in Rider. Not only story-wise, but also the way they're presented, with the camera angles being kind of weird and interesting, the filter being used for most of their scenes when they're talking, the way they're dressed, what a lot of old kids from the 2000s in Japan would probably wear, while also having them speak in a different language for pretty much a good chunk of the show was really interesting. But alongside their clothes, they start to assimilate to the world, and from a word or two being spoken in Japanese to full sentences. And in my opinion, having unidentified life form B1 to be kind of like the main villain of the show was really cool, with her being the overseer of the game, being one of the only people from her tribe outside of B9, which seems to be that the large tribes' roles in the game were purely to oversee the game and set the rules, was really cool. But B1 was so mysterious, and having her kind of be the main bad guy of the show was like really cool. But overall, like, the Grongi are great because they don't have an actual evil plan to take over the world. It's mainly their disturbing and primitive game, which I love, and having each and every game we get to see more absurd way for a Grongi of the 2 weeks or even just one decides to kill as many humans at a set number of hours, which was cool and scary. And they're one of the only factions in Riot that has a giant ass kill count, and that is not even mentioning unidentified zeros killing his own people mainly because he doesn't see them as worthy, which in the end of the day shows how much the Grongis are pure evil. They're not shocker that leans on an ideology from the 40s. They are pure cavemen with superpower and a lust for blood, so they kill because this is how they see strength. And I love how the show really build up the re-arrival / real arrival of Zero, with him being the first Grongi that we get to see and hear. But later we got to see his reintroduction after killing the Bat Grongi. After a sum of a big lore dump about winning the game would grant you powers like Zero, and having him pretty much show up 5 episodes before the show's over was a really interesting plan in my opinion that I believe works. But to be honest, like power scaling wise, yeah, like he's on par with Ultimate Kuuga, so it's like I can't really see him like doing a lot. But Zero's entire point is to give Godai an actual fight because B1 was way more of the main bad guy for Ichijo, which was like really smart because if you think about it, the smart overseer is the antagonist of the cog in the machine Ichijo, while Zero being a twisted version of Godai, laughing at everything, seeing everything as a game while he's literally reigning hell in Japan, was really cool and interesting, while having the big boss dress like nothing interesting, nothing compelling. He's literally wearing white to show that he's nothing, he's a husk, was absolutely great. The Grongi aren't just Kuga's villains, they are the twisted reflection of the show's theme of transformation, where Godai changes to protect life, the Grongi transform to consume it. Even their presentation makes it clear from its unsettling camera angles or even filters, their punk-inspired clothes that evolves from the tribal alienness to something more chilling and familiar. They start with an unrecognized language, indecipherable and inhuman, but they adapt. They transform into something that looks, sound, and even feel human. They remind us how dangerous change without compassion can be. B1 embodies cold intelligence side of transformation. As the overseer of the game, she doesn't kill really, she supports it. Her role is just to set the rule, shape how others act. She transforms the Grongi's violence into structure, making cruelty systemic. By contrast, Zero's pure evil, he was introduced in the first episode, disappeared just to emerge with terrifying powers and a trail of his own kind behind him. His transformation is the one of scale, becoming stronger by eliminating his own kind until he stands as Kuga's equal. Where Godai smiles through pain to protect others, Zero laughs through carnage, seeing it only as a game. That's what makes the Grongi unforgettable. Their transformation are mirrors of our own. They simulate, they adapt, but without empathy, their changes only sharpen their brutality. Unlike Shocker or any other Rider villains who transforms with ideology, the Grongi changes with instinct. Primitive beings given godlike power, evolving towards more blood. In Ichijo's struggle against B1, even Godai's battles against Zero, we see transformation divided into two. Changes that lifts human up and changes that drags us into darkness. The duality is why the Grongi stands as Kuga's and Rider's most haunting antagonist. And then we arrived in my opinion, the greatest protagonist in Kamen Rider, the man of 2000 skills, Godai Yusuke. I said it once, I said again, Godai Yusuke is the greatest protagonist in Kamen Rider's history. He's one to protect people's smiles no matter what the consequences are, and how much he's set on that goal from the very start of the show. It doesn't mean that he doesn't get any developments. He's one to protect people, drive him to gain more power, which for other characters it would seem as a villainous trait. But for Godai, he sees it as the only way for the survival of the human race. He gets to question and doubt himself if that sacrifice actually leads to a better future, but he still goes and fights. While he's one to make everybody smile, and having him be like Shinjo for the rest of the cast, being a guiding light towards happiness and self-fulfillment was amazing. I think him being the mentor slash teacher character is one of the things that makes me want to see characters like him more. He's want to learn 2000 skills before the year 2000 was not only a neat touch for the new hero of the millennia, but also he purely did it to make people smile. Each and every skill he learned was to make other people happy. And having this bright and optimistic character fight a cool and sadistic battle against this tribe of cavemen with godlike powers is absolutely brilliant. And having him discover that his powers were made for evil and they were made to bring the darkness to this world, and still fighting and overcoming it until the end was amazing. Him never breaking until the most sadistic Grongi made him lose it, but still he actually got to stop himself before going full DEFCON free. Was absolutely amazing, and I love that we get to see him transform. Not only with each and every form you give him a new power and feeling more powerful, you see how much he's emotionally transforms with it. And having the final form appears in the last episode of the show was a stroke of genius. And I love that the show built it up for a long time. We get to see glimpses of Ultimate, but it's not something big or ginormous, it's just small moments in the show, which is absolutely amazing. Godai is, in my opinion, the template of a protagonist. It's the template that others copied successfully, but some copied a small bit of the cloth and not the entirety of it, which, in my opinion, I wish to see more of. Because his transformation begins not with strength, but with something far simpler: the hope to protect people's smiles. The hope that never flutters. Even when tested, it drives him to seek more power, not for glory, not for dominance, but because of the survival of humanity demands it. Each new form Godai takes is not just an armor, it's an embodiment of his transformation through hope. With every battle, he doesn't grow stronger, he grows more human, learning to restrain in the face of violence, courage in the face of despair, compassion in the face of cruelty. His powers may have been born from darkness, but he reshapes them into a force that uplifts others. That's why he shines not only as just a regular person, but as a light for everyone around him. Godai's hope transforms other people who walks beside him. Ichijo, Minoru, even strangers, teaching them that growth isn't about fear or pain, but it's about carrying hope forward. Even when the world seems lost, his final form isn't the pinnacle of his strength. It's the pinnacle of his journey of hope, showing that the transformation isn't about what you become, it's about what you refuse to lose. When everyone worries about their way of growing up, as long as you're alive, you're right where you belong. And that's more than anything. This is Godai's legacy, transformation through hope. When I came back to rewatch Kuuga for this series, remembering how much I really loved it, watching it fully for the first time around the pandemic, around that time it was kind of different. I needed some hope in my life. I felt like the new Rider, Sentai, or Ultra gave it to me. But I can confidently say that this is still the peak of hope, which, in my opinion, This show is a mandatory watch, alongside Shinkenger for Sentai and Gaia for Ultra. How much the fight scenes weren't amazing, to be honest. It pretty much most of the time boils down to two guys in suits punching each other, and most of the time Godai losing and or at least being on his back foot most of the fights. They still look amazing. They felt raw. They looked real. From the grungy monster design to our titular rider, all of the suits were fantastic to show how much it looked old. There was this nostalgic feel to it. The cars, the phones, the way everybody dresses. Everything felt like I'm some sort of at home here. Everything around the visuals of the show worked. Yeah, the CG is kind of iffy, but fuck, the soundtrack is amazing. The BGMs like literally build up this amazing atmosphere that no other show I can say really replicated. The opening is fucking fantastic. It feels so much like the fights, raw powers, while also talking about creating a new legacy for a brand new warrior. While the ending song is, in my opinion, one of the best Toku songs ever. It's bright, it's hopeful, it's everything that Kuuga and Godai represents. Yeah, Kamen Rider Kuuga as a song is the theme song of Kamen Rider Kuuga, the suit. Into the Blue Sky is Godai Yusuke's song, no matter what. But Kuuga has the achievement that it has one of the most well-rounded and amazing developed cast. If Ichijo would have became a writer, his relationship with Godai wouldn't really work as well, because if you think about it, Godai has now the shared responsibility split evenly on two shoulders. If Sakurako would have just be gung-ho about Godai fighting the Grongi, it could have led Godai loses humanity. I could say everything for the rest of the cast, but to be honest, everyone was great and everybody played their part so well, and it was amazing. Because the answer of the question, why do I love Kuuga, is it was never a story about finding monsters, really. It was a story of transformation. Not the kind that marked by belts, forms, or powers, but the kind that reshapes the heart. Fear transformed into courage. Weakness transforms into resolve. Loneliness into connection. Each step, each scar, each fleeting smile was a proof that transformation is a thread that binds us together. Because transformation isn't about leaving behind who you were. It's about carrying those pieces forward, reshaped by hope, into who we are meant to become. Even in despair, even in the shadow of cruelty, the act of changing, of growing, becoming its own form of resistance. That's why this story lingers. Because it reminds us that transformation isn't about an ending, but it's about constant motion. As long as we keep believing, as long as we keep walking, we are transforming. And in transformation, there is always hope. To transform is to begin. To begin is to stumble. To stumble is to rise and rise again. To transform is to doubt. To doubt is to choose. To choose is to carry hope, even when the night is long. To transform is to hurt. To hurt is to heal. To heal is to remember that every scar is a proof of survival. To transform is to fight. To fight is to protect. To protect is to give meaning to every smile, every life. To transform is to lose. To transform is to grief. But even grief transforms and becoming love that never fades. And so transformation never ends. It bends us, it breaks us, it builds us, it reshapes us until we're stronger, until we're brighter, until we're human. And in that endless cycle, one truth remains. Transformation is hope. and hope is eternal. Thank you, Kamen Rider Kuuga, for being my favorite Kamen Rider show. So, what's your overall thoughts on Kamen Rider Kuuga? Comment below, let me know. Yeah, I am super excited to finish off the second part of this big Why Do I Love series. And as I stated in the early stages of the episode, the next episode of Why Do I Love is going to be focused on my favorite Ultraman season, Gaia. And after it, I'm kind of going to give you kind of like an understanding of what this thing is going to become after those three. So, thank you very much for watching the video. If you liked it, please smash the like button, help your subscribe button achieve its true goal of becoming a subscribed button. Don't forget, you're the only one that can prevent forest fires. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.